What is up, guys? It is AJ from MMA Experts, and we are talking about the just recently potentially announced fight between Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington. Dana White said that is the fight they're looking to book. Something happened with the Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal fight. I'm not surprised that it may not go through. Probably some contract dispute, I'm assuming, on Nate Diaz's part. I know he did release like a trailer on his Instagram for the rematch, but now Dana White talking about that rematch not happening. I mean, potentially could be just trying to, play Nate Diaz into the contract dispute game and say, hey, if you don't take this fight, we're going to give it to Colby Covington if you don't accept it for this amount of money. But Nate Diaz knows that game, and he's probably not going to take less than what he feels he deserves. He's, I guess I would say, a superstar of sorts in the sport at this point. Even though he's not the number one guy in the world, he definitely brings a ton of eyes. But Jorge Masvidal versus Colby Covington on the table. I do believe this fight will probably be next. It's a fun matchup. Two ex-teammates, two ex-best friends. The beef is going to be very interesting. I don't know how real it is. I'm assuming it is real. I don't think that they're faking it. But I mean, they were best friends for several years. And now to have a falling out very quickly, probably about maybe 9 months ago. And, I mean, they might be fighting each other in the octagon now. But let's get into the matchup a bit. I mean, Jorge Masvidal has been around forever, 35-14. Colby Covington, 16-2. He's coming off that dominant win over Tyron Woodley. Jorge Masvidal coming off the disappointing defeat against Kamaru Usman. Wasn't the best fight of all time, but Usman stuck to the game plan. He put Jorge Masvidal against the cage, and he dominated him for 5 rounds. Colby Covington beating up Tyron Woodley with the volume, with the pressure, and out-wrestling him as well. And now these two collide. I mean, they've trained together for so long. They're going to know pretty much everything one another does. I mean, in a matter of, how maybe a year and a half, 2 years since they've probably last trained with one another, how much has their game changed? And I think that it won't be anything too substantial. I think they know what to expect from one another. Now, the interesting part of this matchup is Jorge Masvidal is a very hard puncher, and he hits like a truck with a lot of speed. I mean, his boxing and MMA is elite level. Colby Covington, high-level wrestling and very high-level pace. I think when you put these guys in there together, it's going to be a tricky fight to call. I think that it could potentially go to either man. But for Jorge Masvidal, his game plan needs to be keep the range, keep the fight on the feet. Don't be overwhelmed by Colby Covington's pressure. And I definitely think Colby's going to want to push him back against the cage. I think he needs to take a page out of Usman's book. It is very hard to beat Jorge Masvidal in the center of the octagon. Outstriking Masvidal is definitely not the best idea for Colby Covington. Yeah, he's a decent striker, but not Masvidal level at all. I think Masvidal can piece him up on the feet. He needs the pressure. He needs to make this fight dirty. He needs to get it against the cage, look for takedowns. But Jorge Masvidal is not a guy that's easy to take down. Kamaru Usman really couldn't take him down. He could pressure him against the cage and hold him and foot stomp him, but there really wasn't any takedowns landed or any significant damage even landed as well. And I don't know if Colby has the wrestling game to really take down Jorge Masvidal. But Jorge, he's going to be trying his best to fight off that attack. Obviously, he's going to look to stand and trade, land big punches. And if I know they will be clinched up, and as the clinch, as they break and don't initiate the clinch, they separate from the clinch. I think that Jorge Masvidal is going to be looking to land big power shots. I think he has the potential to hurt Colby Covington here in this matchup. It's not an easy fight to call. I do think Covington is going to take a book out of Usman's page. I think he needs to. You cannot try to outbox Kamaru Usman Jorge Masvidal. And I mean, Kamaru Usman is a heavy-handed guy. He didn't even want to play around with the boxing with Masvidal. You saw Colby Covington and Usman in that striking fight. I mean, that fight was barely on the ground. It was pretty much all striking. I think it was all striking throughout the fight. And Colby Covington was stopped in round number 5. Did land his fair share of punches on Usman, but Jorge Masvidal is another level of striker. Colby Covington needs to make this fight dirty. I do think he does. I think he's going to put him against the cage, try to put a lot of pressure on him, try to hold him. But I do believe Jorge Masvidal has a legitimate chance to win this fight. I think that his power is something that's going to separate him versus, Tyron Woodley. I mean, at one point was a high-level guy with big power, really has been shy with the trigger and doesn't throw big punches. And so Colby was able to walk over Tyron Woodley. And I don't think that he's going to be able to do that to Masvidal. I think it's a competitive matchup. I'm going to be honest, it's a very tricky one to call, though. I mean, looking at it, both guys have a chance to win. I could see Colby putting him up against the cage, working strikes, dirty clinch boxing, maybe landing a takedown or two and holding down Masvidal. I do think he'll know Masvidal's weaknesses with the grappling, and Jorge Masvidal will know the stand-up weaknesses of Colby Covington. But I will say, unfortunately, as of right now, I'm going to have to be picking Colby Covington. I do think he'll get a hard-fought decision win over Masvidal. I would love to see Masvidal win it. I do think he has a legitimate chance, but it's a very tricky matchup. You have a high-level wrestler who probably has helped Jorge Masvidal improve his wrestling game tremendously. But I guarantee you Colby Covington hasn't showed him every trick that he has. I think Colby Covington is going to pressure him up against the cage, land a couple takedowns, and make it a dirty fight. But I do think Masvidal will land his fair share of good strikes here. But I have to give it to the better grappler in Colby Covington. And we've seen it through Masvidal's career. He's been out-grappled, against guys back in the day, way back. This is the early days. Rustam Khabilov dominated him for 3 rounds there in the lightweight division. Granted, Colby Covington is at a different level than Rustam, and Jorge's not at that same lower level today. But I do think that Colby Covington's wrestling game is going to be a bit too much for Jorge Masvidal. I don't think he lands much damage. I think that maybe they'll land some clean shots, but I think that Masvidal will land the better punches. But I think the positional dominance will lead Colby Covington to a unanimous decision win in a fight that probably won't be the most entertaining. I think it'll be similar to the Usman fight, but I do think Masvidal gets off some better shots and may even steal a round or two in there. I don't know about a 50-45. I could see a 48-47 score or even a 49-46, but I do think Masvidal has a better chance of landing big shots. But I don't think it's enough to stop Colby Covington. I think Colby can take a good shot. We've seen that. He's been stopped one time against Usman, and he wasn't fully unconscious. He was badly dazed, and I agree with the TKO. His jaw was broken. Jorge Masvidal hits with a lot of power, and he'll have a chance to knock Colby out. I don't think he'll be able to, though. I think that he'll bust up Colby a bit with strikes. I think Colby is going to positionally dominate him for the course of 5 rounds, probably against the cage, landing a couple takedowns. I think if it's in front of a crowd, I think you will hear boos from the crowd. I don't think people will be happy. They'll be pissed to see Jorge Masvidal, the fan favorite, lose here against the villain Colby Covington. But I do see Colby winning it and then eventually earning another title shot, whether it be against Gilbert Burns or Kamaru Usman. We'll see who is the champion at that time. But either one of those matchups would be very interesting for Colby Covington there. But it should be a fun fight. I'm excited for it. I am a little disappointed the Nate fight isn't happening just because that was going to be a fun stand-up battle, and we're definitely going to get a lot more of the wrestling exchanges from Colby Covington than we would of Nate Diaz. But still, going to be a big main event. Going to be a pay-per-view fight. They'll probably do it on pay-per-view as a main event. I don't see why either one of these guys couldn't headline a main event. Maybe they'll throw the BMF belt on the line. I really don't think they will because Colby Covington is more that grappling style, and I do believe they want to keep that BMF title for strikers only, essentially, or guys that like to strike the majority of the time. But should be a fun one. It was just fun talking about it. A little hypothetical video for you guys. I do think they'll end up getting it done. It'll probably happen in January, I'm assuming, from this point out. Could be sooner. Maybe it finishes off the year in December. Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington, they will be fighting sometime very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys smash the subscribe button too. Follow my Instagram, my Twitter. Keep those post notifications on. A lot of videos going to be coming your way, guys. Thank you all so much for watching.